right, and again, welcome everybody to today's session of Junior Achievement New Jersey's Women's Future Leadership Academy. Today we're going to be focusing on job interviews and how you can ace your job interview. But before we do that, I would just like to give a huge shout out and thanks to our corporate partners whose dedication and support allow us to have this fantastic program that reaches hundreds of students every year throughout New Jersey. So thanks to our presenting sponsors, ADP, the Deloitte Foundation, the MetLife Foundation, and Sanofi, and our additional sponsors, Church & Dwight, Carney Bank, New Jersey Resources, Merck, CNBC, Wells Fargo, CDW, EY, Fidelity, L'Oreal, Prudential, PSE&G, and Valley Bank. And again, we have so many other great partners who are invested in Junior Achievement's other programs, many that sit on our state and district boards. We've got such a great network and we are so grateful to all of them, all of our partners and all of our volunteers. So a couple things that are coming up. If you are just joining, if this is your first session, we have weekly sessions like this that we're going to continue throughout the end of the school year. So as your schedule allows, please feel free to hop on any of these sessions. You can attend as many or as few as you like. Next week, we have a great session called Get Energized, kind of how to harness your energy and find a better work and school balance. February 9th, we have our monthly executive career panel, and that's where we bring in amazing women leaders from a variety of organizations who will, and backgrounds, who will share their own stories and experiences with you and take your questions. February 16th, the session is all about knowing yourself, finding your inner strengths, what makes you tick, and how to really build on your own strengths in order to reach your goals. March 2nd, effective decision making. If you have to make decisions, either in your personal life, at school, and then of course in the future when you're in the world of work, decision making is a really important thing to be able to do. So we're going to give you some strategies to make better decisions. On March 9th, we are going to have another executive career panel where we'll be celebrating Women's History Month. March 16th, we're going to talk about building your own personal brand and how you can network and use your personal brand to your advantage. April 13th is all about money. We're going to be having a session about financial empowerment and how you can achieve your own financial goals and be independent. And then looking ahead, we have our fingers crossed. We really want to have an in-person forum. We want to see everybody in person and network and get together. So we have that scheduled for March 31st. Details are forthcoming. And if it works out, we will probably have many of these before the end of the school year. So stay tuned for information about that. There are other ways to get involved with Junior Achievement and the Women's Future Leadership Academy. If you're looking for ways to continue to build your leadership skills, if you want to participate in a really great extracurricular that's fun and engaging and looks great on that college application, please feel free to get involved with us. You can earn our digital badge for career readiness. This is a really cool thing that you can post on your LinkedIn profile or on your resumes. It tells everybody that you've got these great skills that we've been building. All you have to do is attend 5 or more sessions of the Women's Future Leadership Academy, either live or viewing the recordings. Complete a simple survey and submit a final project. A few of you have done that already, and your projects are amazing, and we want to keep seeing them. You can also become a student ambassador or a council member. Our student ambassadors are representatives for the Women's Future Leadership Academy and Junior Achievement in your community and school. So we'll prepare you and train you on how to do that. There's also great opportunities for our ambassadors, like speaking at our sessions and to our board members. So you can find out ways to get involved with that. It's pretty simple. And we also have a new program called the Women's Future Leadership Academy Council. That's an internship type program. We have 2 of our council members who are joining us today. I think we may have more. But that is a semester-long program where you'll be kind of working as an intern for Junior Achievement and getting more involved with the Women's Future Leadership Academy. Details on both of those programs and how to register for any of our upcoming sessions are right there on our website, janjacademy.org. Looking ahead, we are really trying to think of creative ways to expand this program. So we are considering bringing in-person sessions to your school. And we are also considering adding an additional day and time for our virtual sessions during the week, because we know everybody's schedules are very busy. So again, please stay tuned. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to shoot me an email or a note. You can reach me at cbedron@ja.org. Many of you already have my email address already, and I will put it in the chat room later. So let's talk about job interviews. I'm going to encourage everybody to go ahead and use the chat feature if you'd like. We love to chat. So when you think about a job interview, how does that make you feel? If you're thinking about being interviewed, how does it make you feel? You can post your feelings in the chat room, or you can just think about it to yourselves. For a lot of us, we feel pretty nervous if we're about to go into an interview. Absolutely nervous, especially if it's something that is really important to us, like if you're trying to get into a college, or if it's a job that you really want, or you're maybe looking to get involved in a program at school. But yeah, definitely nervous. Even those of us who are really outgoing, we feel a little bit nervous. So as you can imagine, the way to not be as nervous is to really know what to expect and to know how to prepare ahead of time. So here are a couple tips for how to prepare for a winning interview. First of all, when you go in for an interview, it's always good to reread the job description or posting. So go through again, find out exactly what the job description is, and see if you can how best you can align your own strengths and talents to the job description, meaning what are they looking for. So review that so you know the name of the job that you're applying for and some of the requirements. Also, do some research about the company. Very often, companies or organizations will have information about their mission or their vision statement or their culture or their footprint, meaning where are they located, right there on their website. So it's really helpful to have some information about the company. Again, you might be able to find some buzzwords that the company uses that you can use in your interview so that you'll really come across as being a good fit for the company. Prepare for interview questions, and that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to give you some tips on how to prepare for interview questions. Prepare your selling points. We're also going to do that now in just a moment. Again, what makes you great? What makes you unique? Why should they hire you? And how your skills align to that job that you're interviewing for. Number 5, be punctual, right? If you're on time, usually, I always say to myself, if I'm on time, I'm late. I've learned the hard way that things come up that you can't prepare for, like traffic or an accident, or you lose something, or your ride is late. So it's always good to plan ahead and allow yourself extra time. That way you're not going to be stressed out. If weird things happen and you're running late, that's going to cause additional stress. So always make sure that you leave some extra time, even a half hour, even if you get there an hour early and you just wait in your car or wait on a bench outside and just play games on your phone. And yes, Oriana, you made up an excellent point. If the interview is virtual, you might have connection issues. Excellent point. So many interviews now are virtual. So if it's on a platform that you're not used to, log in early and make sure that your computer is ready to go. Excellent, Oriana, thank you. And I'm going to ask Oriana a little bit later before we go into our breakouts to share some of her experiences and thoughts as one of our JA interns and college students. Be aware of your body language, right? We all kind of know one thing that you don't want to do is cross your arms in front of you, right? If you cross your arms in front of you, that makes you seem like you're not interested or hostile or not approachable. So be aware of your body language. We always hear sit up straight, don't slouch. It is important because it does make you look like you're engaged and you're interested. Dress appropriately for the job. Now, you don't have to go out and buy a new outfit. It's important to dress for the particular job you're applying for. You can find out what the company dress code is, or you can find out what people generally wear in that particular line of work. As a rule of thumb, companies that finance and law usually have a more strict or conservative dress code than companies like sales, marketing, or things that have more of a creative nature. But either way, dress appropriately for the job. If you're not sure, just do a simple Google search. But again, you want to make sure that you look professional and neat. You don't have to buy anything expensive. You don't have to buy anything new. Just make sure that you look professional and neat, that you put some effort into, being put together, and make sure that your clothes, your hair, your jewelry doesn't take away from you, because you want to be the focus. You want the interviewer to really focus on you, and not any kind of fancy stuff that you have going on with hair and makeup and jewelry. Prepare questions in advance. Again, we're going to go over that in a minute. And bring a copy of your resume and work samples if it's appropriate. So if you submit a resume and a cover letter, it's always a good idea to bring copies of those with you, because sometimes you might be in a room where you're being interviewed by several different people, and for everyone to have a copy in front of them is really helpful. And it looks great if you show up prepared. Bring that copy, bring a couple copies, put it in a little folder if you have one. And then work samples, of course, if it's applicable to the job. Okay, and if anybody else, I know we've got a couple of volunteers on the line as well. If you have anything that you'd like to add in the chat room, or if you have any questions in the chat room, please feel free to go ahead and use that. Okay, moving along. So let's talk about skills. Those of us who, if you're in high school, you might be thinking, well, gosh, I've never had a job before. I don't know what to put on my application or my resume. What kind of skills do I have? Well, interviewers are looking for two kind of different areas where you might have skills. The first one is technical skills. Those are specific tasks that you perform on the job, and that are specific to the job you do, for example. So these technical skills are things that you learn either at school, from experience. You can learn a lot of these things on the internet, or you can learn them on the job. So technical skills are things that you can do that you've learned. A lot of times when you get into a job, they will teach you there. They can teach you a lot of these technical skills when you're on the job. The other type of skills, and that's what we're going to focus on today, are those soft skills. So most of you have probably heard of soft skills before, but if you haven't, again, these are really what are crucial. We hear more and more that employers are really looking for these things. A lot of our employers say, we can teach you the technical skills, but we can't teach you to show up on time, or we can't teach you to communicate effectively. So these are the things that really employers are looking for. And the soft skills now are different, or they've changed a lot in the past couple of years in response to the way workplaces have changed because of COVID. So again, soft skills are all about the person you are, your personality, the kinds of things that you can do. And these are things that we can all work on and build. So what are these things? We're going to go over them kind of slowly. And I'm going to ask all of you if you'd like to kind of think about some of the things that you do well. But again, just like your schools have changed, the way you go to school now is different. The way you do homework now is different. Workplaces have changed too, and they've changed pretty dramatically. It was a really challenging year, and we continue to be challenged. Companies are forced to do things differently. They're forced to be innovative, and it also changed what employers really care about. So that's what's interesting. And I did a little research before today's session and found some really updated information. And we also always ask our board members as well what kinds of things that they're looking for. And so this is brand new, hot off the press kind of things that I'm going to share with you. So there are 9 skills that are really important for success in the new workplace. So students, if you have a piece of paper or something to write on, if you'd like, I'd love for you to kind of see if you feel like any of these skills are strengths of yours. So as I'm going through these, there's 3 slides. If you see something that you're really good at, you say, oh yeah, I'm good at that. That's something I do well. Jot that down, because we're going to use that later. Okay, hopefully I would think everybody's going to find at least 2 or 3 things here that you're good at. And you can also post them in the chat room. If you don't have a piece of paper or pencil, you can post them in the chat room, because we love to hear about your skills in the chat room. We want to hear you guys brag. Go ahead and brag in the chat room. We love that. So let's go through these. Number 1, creative problem solving and innovation. Again, because companies have had to change the way they operate, change the way they meet customers' needs, change the way they work if they were working in the office and now they're all home. So that's really the most important thing, creative problem solving and innovation. So can you think logically to come up with creative solutions to problems? Are you good at thinking of new skills? Are you ready to tackle a challenge? Is this you? Go ahead and jot that down or brag about it in the chat. Number 2, communication skills. And it's not just talking to the person next to you or in a group. It's also communicating through these new ways that we do it, emails, chats, on video, or on conference calls, because we're starting to use those a lot more. So if you're really good at answering emails and sounding professional in an email, if you're really good at getting your point across on those conference calls when it's hard to judge how people are feeling because you can't see them, that's a really great skill to have as well. Okay, number 3, time management. Are you one of those people that's really organized and can get things done on time? Can you focus on your work? And can you manage your time to stay productive without someone looking over your shoulder? And this is key. Again, without someone looking over your shoulder, being able to work on your own is really good because, again, so many people are now working remotely. They don't have a manager that's there overseeing them all the time. So they have to trust that their employees are going to do the work and get it done. So that's another really great skill. And I feel pretty confident that all of you have been, really built this skill over the past couple of years while you've been learning from home. Okay, next page, a growth mindset. We talked about this a few times at the Women's Future Leadership Academy. And I love these stuff in the chat. I love your answers in the chat room. Thank you, everybody. So a growth mindset is all about adapting to changes. If you like to learn something new, even if you think you might not be good at it, are you able to learn from failure? If that's you, you've got a growth mindset. Again, important skill. Emotional intelligence. Those of us that are already in the business world, we've heard this. It's been talked about for a long time. Emotional intelligence is if you can read other people's feelings, if you can respond with compassion, and of course, if you understand your own feelings and are able to respond to them. If you know what makes you angry, and if you know what stresses you out, or if you know what sets you off, and you can kind of feel that coming, if you can adjust and say, okay, I know that this thing is making me upset, but I don't need to be upset. It's not about me, it's about something else. So I'm going to just move ahead. Those are kinds of things that are all about emotional intelligence. And again, a really, really important skill. Collaboration. Do you work well on a team? If you're on a sports team, chances are you're really good at collaboration. Are you good at listening to other people's ideas, bringing everybody in together? Do you use your own strengths and do you harness the strengths of your team members to help your team reach its goals? So collaborators out there, go ahead and jot that down or put it in the chat. And last page here, last page. Adaptability. Again, we've all learned this the past couple of years. How well do you handle those changes? Are you able to learn new ways of doing things? If all of a sudden you get to work one day and things are different, are you going to freak out, or are you going to be able to adapt and say, all right, I can do this, I got this, I can learn something new pretty easy. Again, a very important skill. Active listening. Can you show that you're engaged in a conversation? Are you good at showing eye contact? Do you know how to listen and then ask the right questions instead of just thinking about how you're going to respond? And are you able to withhold judgment? If someone's telling you something and you feel a certain way about it, that may be judgmental, are you willing to kind of pass that by and really listen and understand that person? And then finally, leadership. And you guys all have this because you're all involved in the Women's Future Leadership Academy, right? So think about, have you been in charge of a project that went well? Can you inspire others individually or in a group to make them better? And that's what good leaders do. They see the good in other people and they make it better. Leadership as well. If maybe you take a leadership role in your family. Maybe you help younger siblings or cousins with homework. Maybe you help make dinner. That's leadership. Kind of being in charge of projects at home and inspiring others. So, okay, so hopefully everybody got a couple of these that you're good at. And thank you so much for putting these in the chat room. And again, remember these because these are the skills that we're going to talk about when we go into our breakout sessions momentarily. And I'm going to just really quick look at the chat room and see if I am missing anything. Excellent. Okay, some great skills here. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, so here's a list of top 10 interview questions. Now, you may see these, you may not, but these are the ones that are most generally asked. Tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest weakness? What do you want? Why do you want to leave or have left your current job? That's a tricky one. If it's your first job, you may not be asked that. You may not be asked about salary expectations either if it's your first job. Those are kind of questions that are more geared for, if you've been in the workplace for a while. Why do you want this job? How do you handle stress and pressure? Tell me about a time when you were part of a successful team or group. And do you have any questions for me? So again, always think about a question that you can ask the employer at the end of your interview. So an example of a question, you could ask something about, tell me a little bit more about the vision for the organization. And this is something that you can find if you do research about the company. What do you feel are the most important qualities that your employees need to have here? Questions like that. Think about make sure to have a question prepared just in case you are asked that question. Because an employer will really be impressed if you come back with a really great question that's not how much time do I get for vacation, right? Or can I use my phone when I'm here? It should be a question about the company and about how you can fit into the company, or how your skills can align to the company. So when you look at these top 10 interview questions, a lot of these are what we call open-ended questions. Like the first one, tell me about yourself. That's an open-ended question. And those are challenging because, gosh, where do you begin? Also, number 8 and 9, those are open-ended questions as well. Tell me about a time when you were part of a group that was successful, or how do you handle stress and pressure? So open-ended questions like that, that's when you're going to want to talk about your strengths and tell a story that gives an example of how you use those strengths. And there is a method that you can use that will help you organize your thoughts. And that is called the STAR method. And if anyone has ever done this before, please feel free to put that in the chat room. We love to hear your thoughts. Any of our volunteers, if you're familiar with this, please feel free to post that in the chat room if you've heard of this. So when you are answering an open-ended question, again, you want it to be a story. And this is the way you kind of organize it. You start with the situation. Describe the situation you were in or the task you needed to accomplish. And this could be with school, with a sports team, with something with your family, a club at school, a class, any of your volunteer stuff, and any kind of situation that highlights your strength. The next is task. Describe the challenges and expectations, what needed to be done and why. The next step is action. Elaborate on your specific action. What exactly did you do and how did you do it? And then finally, R is for result. Explain the result, including your accomplishments, recognition, and the outcome, right? So if it's something like say you work at a fast food restaurant and there was a challenge, maybe you had a party of 10 come in and you only had a table that fit 6. You could use that as an example. Describe the situation. I needed to find a place for this party of 10 to sit because their reservation had a problem and they were upset, and so we had to seat them fairly quickly. So the task, describe the challenges. You could say something like there weren't enough chairs, or I had to make some rearrangements. The action, what did you do? Did you go to the back room and you found a separate chair and you were able to modify the seating arrangements, and you were able to talk to the customers and explain that you were sorry and it made them feel better? And then as a result, the customers are very happy and they gave a really great review to the restaurant, right? So that's just a really quick example of what that can look like if you're answering a question according to this STAR method. Okay, so now we are in a moment, we're going to go into our breakout sessions. But before we do that, I wanted to introduce our amazing intern, Oriana. She is here and joining us. So Oriana is a student at Princeton University, and she has been working with us with the Women's Future Leadership Academy for a while. And she's also a former Junior Achievement of New Jersey High School hero. Oriana has some great thoughts as well from her position as a college student in regards to interviewing. So Oriana, I will turn it over to you. Welcome, Oriana.
Thank you so much for the great introduction, Christy. I'm always glad to be here. And Christy gave a wonderful list of things to look out for when it comes to interviews, but I just want to elaborate on certain things and bring up some points that weren't previously discussed. So first off, I want to talk about preparation before the interview. So one thing that's important to realize is that if you're looking at an application that's not due in a very long time, or let's say you just missed the deadline, so you might want to try to apply for the application later on, look to see what kind of skills they are requiring to see if during that time period you can work on those skills to add to your resume. And I'm saying this now just so you have it, are able to develop this idea of building up the skill over time, because it's very important that you do not lie in your resume. If you lie in your resume, that will come back and bite you in the butt, and you don't want that to happen. So that's very important to keep in mind. Another thing that I want to say, Christy did mention reviewing the job description. And one thing that I think is also very important is looking up the job to see if they have a website, to see if they have values, to give more description of what do they do as a whole. So you can get an idea of what the company is all about, just so when you are able to have the interview, you're able to have good context, first of all, and able to cater your questions according to their values. And another thing, Christy already touched on this, but the idea of prepping questions beforehand. One thing I would definitely say is to look at the questions. And I also have a link that I will post in the chat, similar to the ones that Christy showed you earlier. These are the list of typical interview questions. And one thing that's really important is to have a draft of certain specific responses. Because with the STAR method that Christy just pointed out, it's very important that you have specific examples for questions. For example, if they have a question about describe a hardship and how you overcame the obstacle, it's very important that you have a story to back up that you went through something difficult in your life, because they want to see specifically how you overcame that obstacle. And to give you an example, I was just talking to an alum from Princeton, and she was saying that during her interview, she accidentally said that she didn't really have hardships. And then so she started freaking out because she knew it was not a good response. So what she ended up doing was emailing the interviewer afterward and telling her, and it wasn't that she didn't have hardships, she didn't look at it as hardships. She looked at it as a way of, growing and moving on from there and improving herself. So it's also something you can do as well if you need to email the interviewer after. But the main thing is to, really try to get a good interview by prepping beforehand. And I want to also make note of that when you are drafting these responses, don't read from them when you're in the interview. It should come natural. But this way of drafting these responses may also help reduce some anxiety, because you have an idea of what to say, especially if you're practicing the responses over and over, whether you're practicing it with a friend or family member. That can be very helpful. And lastly, in regards to preparation beforehand, I would like to add, if you're able to, get the name of the interviewer beforehand, definitely check them out, whether on LinkedIn or just Google them. And I don't mean this in a stalkerish way. The reason why I'm saying this is because you can get valuable information in regards to their background and just to get a sense of who they are beforehand. So you can also use cater your responses to that. For example, when I had my interview for Princeton, I found out small information about my interviewer, and I was able to bring up certain things in discussion. So I know we're able to have not just a discussion about like, going to the school or getting in a job, but also just having a friendly conversation as well. Because they want you to show that that personal skill, because it's very important, that will carry you through, as Christy said, with the soft skills. And now on to the interview, kind of tied into what I just said before. It's very important to be friendly and polite, even if you're extremely nervous. Most people are, or even if you're not like enthusiastic or like, because you're so nervous, just, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you, the basic stuff. And, just try to keep a good rapport throughout the interview. And as I said before, if you're able to find facts about them that are helpful, like for example, I found that my interviewer was a part of marching band, so I was able to bring it up on my extracurriculars when she asked me what I like to do. So we were able to have a conversation about that briefly. Another important thing during the interview is eye contact. So when it's virtual, it's kind of hard, but it's the best thing to do is like look directly at the camera, because you're looking all over the place. They're going to be like, what is this person looking at? So it's very important to try to keep your focus on the camera, even though it might be kind of weird if you're not looking at them per se. And if you're doing it in person, once again, it can be really hard to keep eye contact because you're nervous, but try to keep eye contact as much as possible. Third, I know this can be a hard thing to do. I struggle with sometimes, but really trying to enunciate is very important, especially if you have an interview that is in person and you have to wear a mask. That's going to muffle some of what your words are. Some of your words. It's really important to take that time to try to talk slow. Once again, I know it's kind of hard, kind of struggling too. Another thing is when you're having meetings online or the interview online, it can also get kind of muffled depending on your connection. So, just try to practice in front of a mirror or a friend or family member, as I said before, and try to, work on slowing down and enunciating your words. And lastly, this is very, very important. If the interviewer asks you, if you have any questions for me, definitely ask them a question. You can look through a list beforehand of certain questions you might want to ask them, such as like, how do you get into the job? Or what kind of, what have you found the most valuable from your experience working here? Things of that nature. So you're able to have that conversation, because although it is an interview and you are the person, that's going to get most of the questions, it's important to show that you care about them as well. And it's especially because people tend to like talking about themselves. So it's a good opportunity to allow them to do so. And just so you can learn more about them. And yeah, so I think that's really it. Thank you so much, Christy.
Right. Thank you so much, Oriana. Again, always with some fantastic advice. Really appreciate it. And I also just wanted to give a huge shout out. We have one of our board members who has joined our meeting today, Lisa, who has been involved with junior achievement. There she is. She has been involved with junior achievement and our Women's Future Leadership initiatives for as long as I've been with JA. And Lisa, you always inspire me. So I hate to put you on the spot, Lisa, but would you mind just saying hello to the group
Sure.
before we go to our breakout rooms? And if there's anything that you'd like to add from your perspective?
Yeah, no, great, Christy. I would love to. And I'm really happy to be here with all of you young ladies. And I applaud all of you. Really, all I want to say is that I really applaud all of you for taking the initiative to be here. So this is putting you one step ahead of other people. And this is showing leadership. This is showing initiative. And really just commend you for doing that. So I'm thrilled to be here and look forward to getting to know more of you in the breakout session.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thanks for letting me put you on the spot.
No problem.
So again, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to have very informal conversation and practice where all of you will get an opportunity to answer these questions and highlight those strengths that we talked about earlier. Pick out some of those things that you're really good at. And how can you highlight them? Think about a story that you can share that explains when you've kind of shown those strengths. So when we go into the breakouts, again, Lisa's going to be leading one, and I'm going to be leading the other. So we're just going to take turns, and of course, Lisa, you can answer your question as well if you want to give an example. But there's two different prompts here, and you can answer either one or both of them. So if the interviewer says, okay, tell me about a time when you had to overcome a challenge to meet a goal, or tell me something that you've accomplished that you're proud of. So think about how you're going to answer those questions and frame it into a story. What you did, what were the results, and the specific skill that you showed. Okay. So again, we'll just take turns, and Lisa and I will just call on everybody. Again, we will not be recording the session, so don't worry about that. This is a chance just for all of us to kind of practice. We always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone. This is a safe space, right? We're not being judged. We're not being graded. It's all good. And it's just practice. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So we have about 15 minutes or so. Just simply follow the prompt on your screen, and then we will be back here when that time is over.